All right, this is Jeff Zimmerman with FightNews.com. I'm with the legendary Bernard Hopkins, Hall of Famer, B-Hop, aka the Executioner, the Alien. How you doing, Bernard?
I'm feeling great, man. How you doing? Everybody's good. Hope your family's good. Looking forward to a lot of great shows coming up at Golden Boy, and I hope I can see you at one of those fights. But everything is good over here, man. Getting ready for the spring. I know you are.
Absolutely, man. Out here in Dallas, we had some Philly weather here recently. It even hailed today. I think I sent you some snow pictures not too long ago.
You had a shovel. I think you had a shovel. At least it looked like a shovel. You was doing something.
But listen, man, you do got some big shows coming up here with some of your young guns, Vergil Ortiz Jr., Ryan Garcia. We're going to get into that, but I got to ask you something here. Because I just interviewed a guy by the name of Freeway Rick Ross out of Los Angeles. He was the biggest drug kingpin in U.S. history, ran hundreds of people around the country doing cocaine, and had a life sentence, got out, now has his own little boxing advisory company called Freeway Rick Ross Boxing. I asked him about his time in prison, if it was a blessing that he went to prison. And he said to me that, you know what? He goes, I looked at it like this. Not a lot of people can say that they experienced prison. I read 300 books while I was in there. I took advantage of it. Now, if I was on the outside, who knows what would have gone down. But he really, didn't really have any ill will towards his experience. Someone like yourself coming out of the projects in Philly, got into some rough time with the law, had to do some hard time, and you found boxing. What are your thoughts on how Freeway Rick Ross looks at it, and do you feel the same way?
Well, I found boxing at 9 years old when my uncle Artie McLeod, Moose from Philadelphia, who boxed as a pro, had a pretty decent record. But he was really a really strong middleweight, then a light heavyweight. So I got introduced to boxing real early in my family. Matter of fact, family of mother and father had brothers that boxed. One in the 60s on my father's side, my mother in the 70s. But anyway, I looked at it like when I went in the institution, I didn't box right away. I normally, hung around different blocks of the cell, did certain things that you had to do while you was in there, as far as work in the morning, and follow the rules, yard out, entertainment, far as when I say entertainment, exercise, things like that. And they had boxing, they had basketball, they had things that quote unquote, keep you busy as much as you can be in prison. And boxing became like the second year out of my 5-year stint. Boxing became more of something that I said, I need to let off some frustrations. There's a lot of stuff going on in that world with the wall around it. And only the strong survive and the weak falls. And I've seen a lot of things. It's a lot of trauma that can be left on a person, no matter what age you are. Imagine if you're young. And I had to fight through a lot of stuff that you had to ignore, but it's right there in front of you. And a lot of things that you have to actually fit in to not be able to give off any type of energy or vibe that you are intimidated, you're afraid, or, which is key, you can't handle it, which means the situation after 6 months go by, a year go by, because the same guy that came in yesterday doesn't mean he's the same guy that be the next month or become the next month or whenever days that and years that go by. You must be very consistent on whether you're the bad guy whether you are the long shark in the prison, whether you this or that, whatever title you represent, some are given, it could be good or bad, and some are taken. You must be one or the other. And I've learned early on, and I think will help a lot of, I guess you could say, tension and friction between me and other inmates. I knew a lot of people from the streets, whether it's this neighborhood, this neighborhood, because I went through all the juvenile systems in the Pennsylvania Penal Code. And I don't say that to be bragging. I just say the same people that you've seen in the juvenile facility, it's the same people that get certified or become an adult by age 17, 18. In some cases, if it's a murder or some hideous crime, 16, 15, or 14, counting backwards. So I sort of built this reputation from being that guy on the streets, and then went in the institution, and a year go by really real quick, because you're establishing yourself. That's why time go by. But the second and the third year, depending on what you're doing and how you're keeping yourself busy, and that's really big but small circle, they had boxing. They had a boxing program. Yo, the question that I say to people when I question me, to get an interview over real quick, is ask me, if they didn't have boxing in prison, would you have got back into boxing? Would the love would have came back at a certain time? What would you have done if they didn't have boxing in the Pennsylvania Penal Code system? We wouldn't be talking right now. We wouldn't have a conversation, because I never would have got that love back. And I wanted to go on a block and hang out with my homies, and I got blocked by the guards. Where you going, Wild 4145? Going to the gym. Let me into the gym. I get there, hang out a couple of people, see somebody boxing. Yeah, he all right. He was beating everybody's ass for years in that gym. People come in, they leave, they go to other jails, they get shipped out of one jail to go to another jail. So I was just one of those guys that they would call a blabbermouth, somebody that's saying he can do something, but he really can't do it. So I stepped in there. I didn't get the best of it. I didn't get the worst of it. That gave me respect. Within months, I became their hero. They had tournaments. We was under the amateur boxing AAU Golden Gloves. Inmates used to come from out the streets of Philadelphia. They used to bust them. They bring them through the security visiting room, check them, check their bags, go through security metal detector. They're boxing at prison in that gymnasium amongst hundreds of inmates. They have trophies. They'll give us the loser and the winner will get the trophy. And we held on to them when you're in prison. That trophy is like a gold medal of the Olympics, because you're proud of something you did. And guess what? Reputation is everything. And your name is everything in that environment. And so I've been fortunate enough to done well after I left out, which was more important than doing it when you're in there, because when you get out, there's a lot of distractions that I believe a lot of great fighters, a lot of great people with talent couldn't overcome that. And they never got discovered, or they never blossomed. I've blossomed because I took the mentality that I learned in that situation, that environment, and I never looked back. And when those who ask me around the world and through boxing, and even today, where do you get this determination? Where do you get this consistency from? And that is key in everything you do, including becoming a professional athlete. it came and it was learned and mastered from that situation. It worked for me. I'm not telling anybody to commit a crime and go there and become Bernard Hopkins. In some cases, some would tell you it's impossible, but I made the impossible possible. And it's something that you don't expect to happen all the time, and it won't, unfortunately. So I know that I must continue to be that person in a different life now and understand and let people, I understand and let people understand that this wasn't just for boxing. This became a lifestyle. I came home with 9 years parole to walk off at 25 years old with enough felonies where the prison wouldn't hire me if I asked them for a job. I had a hand that I dealt myself, and you could say certain circumstances, without getting political, dealt the same hand, laws, different laws, change the laws, and the position I was in. But I took responsibility, and I said never again. And I ain't just say it like I said it before when I was younger, when I was a young adult too. I wanted to prove it and do less of this and more of showing. And I took that attitude and work ethics and discipline. And I said, I will never, never win, lose, or draw. Let anyone talk me out of what I can and cannot do. Game changer. Game changer. Even in my business ventures that I started 20-something years ago, all through my boxing career, that I'm enjoying the fruits of the labor now, as we talked about before the Zoom. The city that I'm looking outside the window downtown in Philadelphia, when I look at the skylight of the city of Philadelphia, you know what I see? I see the Black Rocky of Philadelphia, the underdog, that people said I was an ordinary fighter. My friend now, and been my friend then, Russell J. Peltz, one of the legendary promoters of boxing, definitely Philadelphia. And he tells that story in his book that I have a snippet in there from my experience. And I must say that J. Russell Peltz said to me, he miscalculated my talent. And that's, listen, Russell promoted a lot of fighters in Philadelphia. Great, great Philadelphia fighters that will last in the history of Philadelphia until it no longer stands. But I slipped through the cracks. I slipped through the cracks because I've been told that many times. I've been told that when I was young. I was told that I was in school because I wasn't a person that would love to go to school. I had to catch up on a lot of stuff late in my life, whether it's reading, whether it's math. But I always had a good sense of intuition. That's been my survival mechanism. That's been my survival mechanism, is to have intuition based on experience from all walks of life, that for good reasons, and they better be glad it was, that nobody else experienced. Some say streetwise, some said, oh, you know, you you from the city, you know, city slicksters. I said I had to be everything at once at one time. I don't have the same conversations with you that I had with someone else. It don't have to be boxing. I learned how to have different conversations based on who I'm talking to and who they are, which is more important. Mm-hmm. And that's, I had to learn that was like life lessons from the world that I lived in. And one of those worlds was the negative world that Bernard Heads, the street name, B-Hop, the executioner, the alien. I had to be all of those mentalities and characters even before I became the executioner, the alien, and B-Hop, before I became introduced to the boxing world in 1988 in Clinton Mitchell, Atlantic City, and winning my first title in 1995, fighting Segundo Mercado after a draw in Ecuador and fighting him in Landover, Maryland. The following year, and became champion and held that IBF belt over 10 years, and then gathered the other belts to become undisputed, fighting Felix Tito Trinidad in 01. And with a whole bunch of history in between all the things that I skipped over, but I went from those positions of moments of my life that I would never forget.
And going back to the prison stint, B-Hop, it sounds like just like Freeway Rick Ross, you wouldn't change that part of your life.
Correct. And I'm not going to change it now, because why should I? If it ain't broke, why fix it or try to fix it? See, when you try to do too much, you're normally doing too much. But I'm not afraid to take chances. That's one thing that I, even in my ignorance, even in my foolish acts, I took some brave chances out there in them streets. And guess what? Allah was watching over me, even in my ignorance, because there's no way in the world I was that lucky. If luck is something that people that hear this believe in, which I don't, it's bigger than me. It will always be bigger than me. And that what keeps me not only grounded, but mindful that every time that quote unquote whispers or feelings or anything that make me think that I'm superior to that, nah, that's when I'm doomed. That's when it's over. It's over.
Let's switch gears. We mentioned some of your young guns coming up, Ryan Garcia, Vergil Ortiz. It's a different era, right? You got the social media going on. You got a lot of young fighters out there with a lot of talent that, you know, and we talked about this before, we're not seeing the rivalries in boxing like we've seen in the years past, whether it's, you know, Duran and Leonard, Hagler, Hearns, you know, things of that nature, Ali and all the wars he fought, all the wars you fought, you took on all comers from De La Hoya to Trinidad, et cetera. What is it about boxing today that is not letting us get the fights that the public wants to see?
I believe it has a lot to do with the controllers of the fighters. Keep it straight, 100, straight up and straight talk. When the fighter understands that the power is in his and her hands, nothing should stop that fighter from reaching his or her goal. Case in point, Franchon Cruz is fighting for a third title. She has two. She's fighting to be undisputed. Whether she had to go to another house to get a part of that, you know why I respect that from an athlete, female or male? Because they understand that life goes around one time. And anybody that knows about boxing, not just talk about it. The ones that was in it, the ones that's still in it, the ones that fell victim to it, this has been successful to it, and all above, understand that the elite group of undisputed, there's no dispute. That puts you in a really short list of history, believe it or not, that with all the time and decades that passed through, and we hear now that 2021, where there's so many titles, whether you support all the alphabetical order titles or what, it makes it even difficult to call yourself the undisputed champion. Why do you think that it had to happen and I made it happen based on continuing to keep winning and being a pain in the ass to Don King and having the media, whether they liked me or not, most of them didn't, writing their articles pushing for the Tito fight. And when that fight came to fruition, it was my chance to do that. So when Franchon Cruz had to make a difficult decision to be able to be great, you got to take great steps and you got to take risk. I'm proud of her and I'm glad for her in a fight having happened that she understand that, and we're not even a promoter no more. So, but she understands this. And I believe I played some role of influence based on what? Being undisputed, wanting to be a champion. And what I mean by influence, I mean this. When someone is around me long enough, they pick up good habits. From my perspective, but some will look at it as, we in trouble now. I'll take this philosophy of Malcolm X. You're gonna have 2 glasses of water. And when a young mind and a vulnerable mind wanting to be fed or wanting to be given a glass of knowledge. I have a glass of water. In this glass, which I don't have a glass, but just use your imagination. And I have a glass of this water. And I dilute the one to this hand, the left hand, with a dye of blue. And this one is clear. And I hand it to you, I hand it to her, or anyone else that comes. And as my phone rings every day by somebody, it's my duty to give them the water that's clear. The message is clear. I'm not a savior of boxing. I don't want that responsibility. And you know what? I have to watch out for myself and the people I care and love about. but I will give a sincere person my opinion. No tampering, no influencing to the point where do what you need to do. But if you ask me about the road leading up to being undisputed and what I had to go to it, I had to tell her, do what you have to do, whether I like it or not, or anybody else. I chose for you, let us do it, but it ain't my decision. You ain't 22, you're not 22, you're not 23. You're right at a time where you got to capitalize now. And it reminded me of me. It reminded me of me winning the title at 34 years old, been written off because I'm old. And I'm fighting a young, strong Tito Trinidad. They gave everybody he fought hell. He was undefeated when I fought him, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta take the cat, you gotta take the chance when the chance is there, because you never know when it might come again. Between the politics, between the control of boxing and boxers, we still living back in the 50s and the 30s and the 40s in boxing, but the only thing it is no out and out gangsters with hats on walking like you watching the Untouchables. They used to come on way back in the day. It's a whole new different way on how you skin a cat in 2021. And if you don't have any idea of none of these things that operate not only just in life, then you will never be a threat. That means you ain't doing nothing. It means you're a part of the game, or you part of the shits, or you're not. I never want to lose that credibility. I never want to lose that credibility of becoming those that some despise. Nah, I signed on for something totally different, and I have no regrets when it comes to that until anything else changes, because my eyes are always open, just like my ears. I will continue to teach. I will continue to give my opinion under certain circumstances. Sometimes I'll say nothing, but I can't help myself. If a wounded lamb asks me for my opinion, then that lamb won't be wounded after I tell her.
You got a young fighter, B-Hop, and I'm happy for Franchon too, by the way, in her quest for undisputed. You got a young fighter who's fighting here March 19th in Los Angeles. Vergil Ortiz Jr. out of Grand Prairie, Texas, right around the corner from Dallas. A lot of great fighters out here in Texas, as Golden Boy knows more than anybody. He's somewhat of a throwback. 18-0, 18 knockouts, not into the PR stuff, not into the, the social media hype, just goes out there, you line him up and he knocks him down. What are your thoughts on Vergil, and can we expect maybe a title fight for him this year?
First, let me start with this. Vergil will learn quickly how part of selling yourself, not necessarily trash talking, but breaking out of his shell is who he is. He don't need that to motivate himself, but we also know this is a market. This is, believe it or not, plays a lot in the character and being a character in so many ways. I believe he's going to snap out and easily snapping out of that closed in demeanor and successful at it. Because as more you see his talent and the performance and victories, and hearing people say what he is capable of achieving and being, he gonna break out of that show sooner than later. And 2022 will be the breakout moment for him. I don't believe it will be actually this fight, but he must fight this fight like it's every fight for credibility. He is the real deal. Yeah, I know people are going to say I'm supposed to say that, and they're right. But anybody that know me, I've been right more than I've been wrong. I like his old school demeanor. I like his Alexis Oguayo type of approach, how he comes in, he demolishes you and he leaves, and he got a smirk on his face like it was like, I did my job, I want to go home. What are you talking about? I see big things coming very, very quickly than people might expect. But I think most people are on to what they see because of they was blessed to have knowledge of fighters that came before him. I'm gonna jump right to what's gonna happen when he fights. He will get a hard-earned knockout that will show even more in the 7th or 8th round why he's going to grab a lot of attention than with those who thought that he was just someone that just had a good night and then had another good night, then had another good night. As years go by, how many good nights can he have? Than just saying that he's just that damn good. At this stage, and I've been around boxing for a few days, he has the goods. Can he get better? Will he get better? That's his only challenge. For right now, for what I see, it ain't selling. This ain't selling. I'm telling everybody, hey, let's continue to watch. Even back in Philly, they got a big, huge community, Mexican community in here. But they also got a community of all people here. And of course, I'm a popular guy in the city. Who's going to win this fight? Who's going to win that fight? Even if the fighters ain't promoted by Golden Boy, they're going to ask me. And I'm going to tell them, I know you promote Ortiz. I know you promote this. But no, this kid is sharp. I like him. And I say, you know, don't put all your beans in the basket and just wait. This is a big test for him. No, man, I like him. He a killer. So I take that, but more of what I see and what I know from a young talent and seeing his development and who he's fighting. Is he fighting killers? No, but if he's fighting guys that can make him look certain kind of way where he's not ready for that next step, that's the only thing that he has to convince. When I say us, the world is he at a level that he deserved to bump up quicker than the average generation that was at that level. I'm talking about fights. I'm talking about when he first turned pro, which is pretty young. May I remind you? Sit back, get your popcorn, put your feet up if you got somewhere to put it up at, and sit back and watch this young man's career go to the next level. To me, the debut in the commercial is coming up. It's coming up this month.
Yeah, March 19th, about 2 weeks out, Vergil Ortiz. And then not soon after, you've got another young gun on the complete opposite end of the marketing spectrum, social media star with millions of followers on Instagram, good-looking kid, kind of a Oscar de la Hoya 2.0, and he could fight. But he's had some issues staying in the ring. He just left his trainer, Eddie Reynoso, to go with Joe Goosen. What are your thoughts on Ryan and where does he go from here?
This fight here will show win, lose, or draw where he's at. This fight here is a personal fight in his mind, as far as him, not personal towards the guy, even though every fight is personal because you're going in and fighting, but I'm gonna get a little deeper than that. Ryan Garcia, who first of all, I believe the rising fast track to stardom had everybody focusing on his looks, his talent, his social media followers. When you put all that together, it just line them up and let Ryan take care of them and see with the next step, in the next fight, in the next stadium, he's going to fill it out. But issues, and it's always in life, but definitely in boxing. And he dealt with a mental opponent that he had to work out within his own self and his own, support team and Golden Boy and family, and put that behind him once he realized that he was ready, with no force, no push by anyone on of my knowledge. To hear him talk, because I haven't spoken to him and haven't seen him in, I guess, a year and some months. He knows that this is a beginning to what he needs to finish. Let me elaborate on that a little bit. See, Ryan came out as a gunslinger that never got the bad end of the stick of any of the gunslinging fights that he had. Even after the knockdown, that won him more fans than if he never got knocked down. Why? He got up and he executed. So he showed resilience. He showed that he can take what he can dish out and reverse it. That showed character. That showed he didn't rattle. He didn't lose confidence. Matter of fact, he went out and even fought harder. And then you had that long space. Mentally, is he there? Physically, yeah, you can get there. People can see we know how to get ourselves in shape. But if this is not in order and ready, it's not going to be good going forward. And that is the big question mark. And that's why this fight probably get one of the highest viewerships in a long time, views, because of that. The question mark is not whether you're going to fight Davis, Hanley, this person, that person. It's how he responds mentally, physically, and going forward. This fight ain't a one-all, be-all. This ain't gonna tell everything, but it's a start. That's what I want. I believe when Ryan gets in that ring, he's facing two things. 3, lay off. Do you really want this? Do you want to finish what you started? That's all wrapped up in the 2. Hold up. That's all wrapped up in the 2. Know what the third one is? How do he operate and how do he listen and do he respect? Not respect because I hired you, because you're my guy now. You're my coach, my trainer, whatever title it is how you take that information at really a short notice and accomplish what most fail doing. That is what? Proving to those who don't want to be in your life anymore, whoever that is, and to the fans, he could lose a couple of 100,000 of those fans in one night based on all that I just spoke about. Boxing is one of those sports. Nobody hears you or see you, nobody cares. Whether I agree with that or disagree with that. The more you in the ring, the more you winning, the more they like you, the more fans. One thing about boxing fans, they're really, really straight honest. They rather for you to be doing what you do, and they would sympathize to a point. Unfortunately, in some, that's the way it is. They want to see you fight. And they want to see you fight XYZ in this amount of time. And Ryan understands that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been around Ryan. I've talked to Ryan. I believe he's a threat to anybody when his mind is right. It has nothing to do with his ability. He can hang with all the big ones up there. I don't care who it is. But if this ain't right, and the circle that's giving him information in the heat of battle is not plugged in a way where the information is taken respectfully, and I'm going to do what Joe Goosen says because I believe in him. With the coach or trainer, get a bind together like I had with Bowie Fisher and Nazim Richardson. I never doubted anything they said. I went out and did it. Win, lose, or draw, I trusted them. That can work against or for Ryan Garcia. This is a major fight on all points, and it's more of where his head is at. Should he win the fight? Absolutely. Is it guaranteed? No. Because all them other distractions is always room for upsets. I can't even say I doubt it will be one. I'm hoping it's not. I'm right now in the hope business for this particular fight. Has nothing to do with his ability. It has nothing to do with his ability or lack of. This has something to do with all the things that Ryan, and I believe him, I really do, that he got it under control. It's buried. I'm going forward. I miss what I do. I love what I do. I want to show the world. I want to get all these guys. I know and I believe that's what he wants. But until we get past this month and it get heated up and they get in that ring and that bell ring and we see the body language, we see the spirit, we see all the things that we see, whether you're home watching it, whether you're in that arena, he's back. He's back. And I believe personally, not emotionally, that he will be back. But I got to see first. I'm in the same boat that everybody else in. I have to see. And I'm not talking about in the gym. I'm not talking about hitting the bag. I'm not talking about even sparring. I'm talking about that environment. What happens when adversity hits? What happens when that round didn't go as well as the round before? All these things play on your mind. Do you really want to be this? Do you want to be great? Do you really want to be great? I ain't got to answer that. He has to answer that. This ain't about nothing else. Do you really want to be great? Now you have to prove it. It's a great story. Now he got to end the story. There's a beginning. It's a lot of fun and heartaches in the middle. And there's the ending. It's like death. It's like being born. You got a born date and you got a death date. Control to a certain point how long you want to be in a game and what you want to do while you're in it. You want to be great. Then you're wasting your time.
You've got another fighter, Bernard, that does want to be great, and she shows it every time she's in the ring. And I think you know who I'm talking about, Seniesa, Superbad Estrada. One of my personal favorites, men or female, every time she fights, I think she's must-watch TV.
I can't wait till she fight. And she's itching to fight. She want to fight. I believe, and I'm not just saying this, I believe Seniesa will fight every month if she can. Firecracker. I told her if she ever want to change her name, she should change it to the Firecracker. Seniesa Firecracker, and throw her last name in there and make it all one rhyme, one, make it a hook, make it a hook in that song. She's gonna be a problem for a long time. And I mean a long time, years. She's focused, she's ready, she's always ready, she don't get ready. And let me tell you something, you seen her last fight. She barely gets hit. And when she do, she want more, but don't give the person more. She make them earn it. Mm-hmm. A lot of fighters, male or females, they want to get back no matter what they have to endure. That's good too, to a point, but you don't last long like that. I want to not only see her fight, which she should by April or around April, matter of fact, by around April, but I want to see her get what she worked hard for and what she deserved. She need not only the big payday, the big fight. The women today in boxing deserve it for the ones that prove that they didn't just have a good night and a lucky win. She's been very, I'm gonna use this word, consistent. Consistency in the ring, fight by fight, demands in any fighter the leverage to the world, especially the fans of the boxing, to let them know that you're the star of this division in this world of boxing that's normally controlled and dominated by men. I don't think in a while, my era was Christy Martin, Led Ali, that stood out. To me, she's in that realm of conversation of the today's women stars. Shields, Carissa Shields, you have Franchon, you have Firecracker, Seniesa. Full circle. Every 10 plus years, but I say 10, 15 years, you get that repeated generation, different names, of course, obviously different years, different costumes, different promotional gimmicks or whatever, but full circle. I see a full circle here. And I didn't even mention there are at least 4 or 5 more other women fighters that I can mention that's just on the borderline of knocking on the doors that we don't even promote, that's right there ready to knock on the door and be a challenge to any one of those fighters that I mentioned up the first 3 and 4 to be in that position. So that's to me has a heartbeat that's beating very hard. That's saying we matter and we here. I believe with the fighters out in weight classes, calling each other out for those who are brave to do it. I said the word brave, well, Bernard, they fighters, they're supposed to call each other out. Not when they being controlled, not when they being controlled by the puppet stringers. See, the guy that holds the puppet, the arm up, the leg up, they do this. Once they cut those strings, not necessarily cut them off. You have to do what you got to do. But when they cut those strings and say, I want to be great, I want my name has been in history book. Yes, I want to get paid. Yes, don't get me wrong. I want to get paid. We can work that out, right? And I must admit, everything ain't going to get worked out all the time, but nobody's going to leave history and money on the table unless they are being told that it's something bigger and better down the line or around the corner. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. 9 out of 10, it's not. So my call out through Fight News, through you, through the Zoom, to all the fighters, be a part of history to keep the eyeballs and attention on a great sport that I believe done or going to do good for your life and your family and the next generation that come behind this generation. You can have your cake and eat it too. Mm-hmm. If you're that guy or that woman, why can't you have both? Ask your advisor, your manager, your consultant, whatever title they get themselves, to hide under that rock and give information. Why can't you have both? If you're that girl, if you're that guy, why can't you have both and still win and be great? And see what answer they give you. Because I got both. And yeah, you Bernard Hopkins, so what? I don't want you to be like me. I want those out there to be better than me. But I have a blueprint, or I had a blueprint to go by. That was the great, marvelous Marvin Hagler, who I was blessed to meet many, many times, not only at Golden Boy fights, but at my title defense in the ring, as I represented a belt or the belt that I had defended around my waist by marvelous Marvin Hagler and my partner, Oscar De La Hoya. Let's not turn this into the YouTube boxing era. That's a whole new different topic. That's a whole new different viewership. The UFC already kicked us in the ass to a point. Now you're ready to lose viewership because of a guy coming out of a bar around the corner and gets on the YouTube and fight with his stomach that's hanging out like refrigerated Perry used to play on the Chicago football team. We crazy. What's going on? Like, I can't make this stuff up. I don't understand. I do understand, but sometimes I got to make myself stay sane and not insane. Is to think the logic of these thinkings of these people. And I still haven't got there. It takes a lot of work to do that.
We'll wrap it up here in a few minutes here, B-Hop. So much to talk to you about. It's hard to cover everything on one interview. You know, you got your Texas boys, the Racone brothers, Tristan Calcruth coming up, looking to recover from that
You like
injury.
him? You like Chris? You like Chris? Chris good. You like Chris?
Tristan?
Yeah, Chris. I call him
Yeah.
Chris. But yeah, Kristen. I
Yeah.
call him Chris for short. Yeah, stud. Yeah, gunslinger.
Expecting big things from him?
Gunslinger. He definitely got a lot of confidence, and he come get you. That's what I expect him to, just move him, study, not slow.
He's young. Yeah.
Move him, study. Hold up, move him, study, but not slow, but no rush. Motion. Keep him in motion. Keep him on. He's going to continue to be on the undercards. He's getting the experience. He's getting to feel how this thing is. And then he's going to be thirsty to go in when that time comes. He's learning. He's working. He's doing this. He's in the ring. He's out of the ring. He's at the press conference. I'm watching him. He's sucking everything in. This time next year, we're going to be talking something different in a positive way. 2023. But let's get past this first. Let's enjoy 2022. Things are opening up. People are feeling more normal. Fighters are itching to get out of the gate, to run as fast as they can. Not literally, but in that ring, doing what they do. Should be everybody's breakout year. I'm challenging everybody in boxing, even the fighters. We got to hustle. And we got to keep our audience that we gain new audience through COVID. The casual ones that normally would rather do something else than watch a boxing match. Let's keep them in the building. Let's be very creative. This ain't just myself from Golden Boy saying this. I'm saying this to everybody because we'll fight anybody in any promotional company. We believe we got the best guy. We believe we got the best female boxers. Now, they just might well have the best over there because they got more than one belt. But what I'm telling you is that let's put these people together because we ain't fighting. Promoters don't fight. We fight with our mouths. We fight with our pen, writing a check. But let them fight in the ring to show who's wrong, who's right. And you know what? At the end of the day, great fight, keep it going. Let them live with the victory. Let them be great. Let's not cheat them out being great. Good night, brother. Real quick, before I let you go, Joshua Franco, another young champion on your side. Is he looking to get in there with Chocolatito next, possibly, after his big win? I don't think, I wouldn't. I'll say a fight or two. I think that's, you. And again, personally, I just think that UC was there. I think it gets better on opponent that he fights or top contender that can actually push him even harder than his last opponent to show that he's can take whatever's given and adjust to whatever's shown to him. If you ask me, Bernard, would you want him to do that fight now? If you can do that, if that fight was done, would you do it now? I'll say no. And it's not that I don't believe in him. I'm being honest with you. That's a beast over there. That's a killer. Now give me, if you say 2 fights, give me the end of the year, next year, sometime, let's go. Let's take a look and see what's going on. Oh, he's ready. He's ready. What do you mean he's ready? He's ready to be taken. He's ready to be taken. We got to try him, but it ain't gonna be easy. I never say, see, when I say take, I don't mean easy. See, to take somebody, you gotta go physically take it, right? If you ain't got a gun in your hand, you gotta fight for it. So in this case, you gotta go in there and fight for it. And that's what I don't see happening. If he was to fight him now, it'd be a bad move. You mentioned earlier fighting Trinidad when you're 34.
and you were quite successful. Chocolatito, I believe, is 34. So it probably doesn't shock you what he's doing, although at the lower weights, it seems a lot tougher, you know, to maintain what he's doing. What are your thoughts?
No, see, because that's not a common thing for a 34-year-old to be in a position, and especially be getting talked about in a positive way that I'm talking about him. And I'm not the only one. You can ask the fruit people, they probably told you the same thing in their own way. It's not a lot, but it's a percentage, 3% in generations in boxing, period, has that person that 34, 35, let's start from 32, 33, 34, 35, that's still operating like they're in their late 20s, haven't been banged up, take care of themselves, always looking to learn, always looking for challenges. You look at the last 8-9 fights that was displayed, and he showed and what he did, and punishment that he didn't take and the punishment that he gave. No, that's by age, that's a 34-year-old. But the car been in the garage starting up every week with no miles on there. It's the mileage and the way a person fights and the way a person lives. That has a lot to do, whether that's an old car because it's 34, or whether the age doesn't reflect the youth that's still in them, that's been sort of maintained. There's few athletes, baseball, basketball, football, they stand out. They stand out. The Bradys of the world, they stand out. And if you look at certain fighters, majority of them, you're right. Around 32, 33, you picking them off, they're stepping stones for the next generation. Nah, that's a wild card at this late stage in his career. The wild card is, you think he's ready? Damn, you find out you done messed this guy. This career got to be delayed now for at least another year or two till he build himself up. Definitely a year. We took a shot. It's not embarrassment. It's this guy. He's, you know, Chocolatito. I mean, what do you expect? Well, I thought he was over. I thought he was done. The experience, the youth, even at 34, 35, still competitive, still want to be competitive, still putting in the work that he did 5, 10 years ago. No, I can't go against that guy, whether you with us or not. I can't. That guy, I'm not going to sit there and root for you if you go against us, but I'm going to be clear. You asked me to have an interview. Guys like that are more cautious of than anybody that has that unique group of age of fighters in any weight class that prove and showed, and I watched and witnessed, and I, well, Bernard, can you tell me, how's he still doing this? I do know, but you asking me, ask him. He's going to tell you what I tell you about me. And I guarantee you, when I get finished talking, there's going to be 5 or 6 things that he mentioned in his own way that I told you. That's the answer.
Let's end it with this, B-Hop. This is Jeff Zimmerman, FightNews.com. You're going into the Hall of Fame this year. You got supposed to go in 2020. Obviously, there was a little setback with this pandemic, COVID-19, and now it's a trilogy, right? It's, you know, of course, it's boxing. You know, a great trilogy going in with a lot of great fighters: James Toney, Floyd Mayweather,
Andre Ward,
Christy Martin.
Roy Jones.
Yeah, Ann Wolf, a ton.
El Ali.
Right. I mean, I don't have the list in front of me, but it's a legendary 3 classes. You obviously head up the class in 2020. What were your thoughts? I mean, obviously you were first ballot shoo-in, but just to hear from where you've come from, where you've been, what you shared with us at the beginning from your days in prison, growing up, etc. What were your thoughts when you heard the news?
From the prison cell, to the Hall of Fame house in Calistonia, New York. Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. All praises be to Allah. I couldn't have got here without having a motivation that I had in prison. I spoke like that before prison. I definitely spoke, well, I spoke like that after prison, spoke like that was in prison, and through my bad times, and also through my struggle, even through, when I say struggle, of promoters, promotional business, trying not to break the system, but trying to establish that I would not be used and pimped and disrespected through court battles in federal court, through getting out of contracts, to being blackballed at one time in boxing without getting the big contracts from HBO, when other fighters was making big money and I was just carrying the belts, but no big paydays. I kept winning, I kept winning, I kept winning, I kept winning, and I kept talking. And I got my shot to prove my greatness. And once I got that title, the IBF, at least I kept for 12 years, which is a very few people in any weight division, as you know, that kept any title for 12 years, especially a major title in a major boxing world. To come from the penitentiary to the Hall of Fame is a definitely testimony for anyone out there that get a bump on the road, lose, win, or anything that held them back from being what they want to be, whether it's sports, whether it's anything. Think of Bernard Hopkins. You don't have to know my whole story. Only thing you have to know the beginning, and in the end, and the research will tell you everything in the middle. I have no regrets on my stance that I took. I have no regrets on things that I said at that moment because it needed to be said. That's the way I felt. And to be in the Hall of Fame when people that I grew up with, young and old, the warden, you'll be back in 6 months. As I leave with boxes in one box in my hand, being greeted by the inmates because I represented the prisons as a champion before I left. With videotapes that was VCR back then to prove it. If you go on my Instagram, B-Hop the Alien, you will see one of those videos that I put up years ago that's still there. I have many more. I just don't want to show everybody now until it's ready. I always knew that I had to win. And Ed Brophy, who I've talked to recently, a few days back, he sent me a picture of me at the Hall of Fame to remind me when I came up there to get my hands bronze. Can you find Ed Brophy for me, please, so I can show him? And Ed Brophy sent me a photo. Thank you. And he sent me a photo and said, do you remember this, champ? When you came to Calistonia and trained and did a boxing workout on a bag, speed bag. And he said, remember, we talked about being in the Hall of Fame one day, and I told him I'm gonna be there. I knew where I was going to be. I had no choice, even though I did. To win in society by changing my thinking and changing my ways, and also working very, very hard and being very, very consistent and disciplined. I will never let anyone talk me out of anything that they say I can't do. And they be really foolish, even though they are foolish. They ever try to convince me, even though they will, that I won't be successful in anything I do. That's at the Hall of Fame that Ed Brophy sent me 3 days ago. And if you look in the back, there's a Hall of Fame there. And he sent me this picture of me shadowboxing and putting on an exhibition with the boxing equipment, hitting the speed bag and all that stuff, so they can give it on film. So one day I will be in a Hall of Fame. When my time comes, they will always have my hands already bronzed in the glass, which is there now. See, and I'm gonna use the word I with a lot of help, but I had to put the work in. I knew I was going to be here. It was just when. I knew I was going to be in the Hall of Fame when I was asked to come to visit. I said to everyone there, I will be here one day. That's a common thing to say, but I wasn't playing common and I wasn't talking common. I made it clear. And I'm glad that Brophy remembered that. And I'm definitely glad he still had that picture, because it all makes sense now for those who listen in and really, really care and leave anything they feel other than what I said in the last hour or two. You could say anything you want to say about B-Hop or whatever they call me. But one thing you can't say, he don't have no balls. I have big ones. And I'll use them when I need to. Good night.
Thank you so much, Bernard. This was the legendary Bernard Hopkins going into the Hall of Fame this June in an all-star cast. He's got some big shows coming up. Golden Boy Promotions, March 19th in Los Angeles, headlined by Vergil Ortiz Jr. And then right back a few weeks later, April 9th in San Antonio. B-Hop, Bernard, thank you so much. Jeff Zimmerman with Fight News. You're a living legend. Appreciate it, and talk to you very soon.
Peace out. Be good. Talk to you.